The KEYNOTE-427 study is a clinical study of frontline pembrolizumab therapy for renal cell carcinoma patients, and there was a cohort A for clear cell histology, a cohort B for non-clear cell histology. And the clinical endpoints have already been presented previously at ASCO. In the cohort A population, the overall response rate, 37%, 3% complete response rate. In this year's ASCO, this data was analyzed by looking at the depth of response of patients in this cohort and associating different stratifications of the depth of response with overall survival. So patients that had primary refractory disease with progression, so greater than 0% change in tumor metrics by RECIST analysis, 0 to 30% regression, 30 to 60% regression, 60 to 80%, or 80 to 100% regression, and then the complete responders as well. And assessing these different subsets of the patients versus overall survival. And as you begin to break down a 110 patient cohort into these different subgroups, again, the numbers do become fairly small, but the trend of the data suggests that patients with deep partial responses fare extremely well, and their overall survival corresponds closely to the complete responders. There was a separate report at ASCO on the cohort B analyzed in the same way, and again showed the same trend, that depth of response does seem to associate with overall survival. Perhaps a very intuitive endpoint, but as clinicians know, many of our patients that fare extremely well do not achieve a complete radiographic response. And so trying to provide some data to comment on the very good partial responders and the natural history, the trajectory of survival for these patients. If you don't achieve a complete response, can you not still fare extremely well? Perhaps overall survival will rival the complete responders that we hope are the patients that have the chance to perhaps be truly cured of their disease. These drugs remain fairly new in the field, and so we don't have extremely long-term perspective of 10 and 20 years of follow-up. But I think this sort of analysis of depth of response stratification will carry forward. As the data matures in this cohort, it'll be used in other similar cohorts to begin looking at patients that do not achieve a complete radiographic response, but what is the natural history of these different subsets? So I think food for thought and hypothesis generating for future studies in the field.